Today, I'm gonna be showing you Minecraft's stupidest, dumbest, most idiotic, unfair PvP kits, and putting them into a tier list. We will break the game in every possible way, annoy your opponents, trick them into trolling themselves, and even, quite possibly, have fun. As we move from F tier to S tier, the tactics will slowly get better and more unfair, and we will perfect the art of converting our opponents into a bunch of smooth-brained monkeys, smashing the absolute shit out of their PCs. All I ask after obtaining this knowledge is to use it responsibly. We start off pretty simple. All you need are creepers, a really bad knockback weapon, and set the map to this big, fat, frozen lake. PvP Legacy has this fancy auto-explode function. Set it to 2 seconds. Once in the game, place down creepers and aggressively throw them at your opponent, using your knockback sword. Ideally, if you listen to me and set the map to this lake, you can knock your opponent into the water, giving you a massive advantage. You can also instantly win. Or instantly die. This kit is actually kind of fun. So why am I putting it in F tier? Well, you see, today, I'm not ranking fun. I'm ranking pain. This kit actually gives your opponent an equal fighting chance. So, F tier. Next, grab yourself some 1 durability wooden swords and nothing else. This is less PvP and more who is better at switching hotbar slots faster. You hit your opponent, rapidly move along the row, and go in for your next attack. That's about it. It also makes this horrible noise, which you can burn into the brains of your enemy and slowly make them lose. After a few hours, the noise will be permanently stuck in your brain, and your existence is ruined. Trash. F tier. Now, you might be wondering, how exactly are these kits ranked? Well, there are many ways you could do this, but this tier list goes by average success rate, which is how often the gimmick actually works. But one of my other favorites is the chat reactions. Anyways, back to the tier list. Set the map to this bedrock field and get yourself a ton of obsidian. Yummy. One of the major issues with this kit manifests before the game even begins, as 90% of your opponents will leave the second they see the inventory you have plotted out for them. Once you do start the game, your objective is fairly simple. Run far away from spawn and try to trap your opponent in one of the numerous holes throughout the map. Wait a few minutes and the border will close, winning you the game.
You have no skill.
Bye-bye.
I don't know if you can even call this PvP, but it works. Sometimes. F tier. Starting off in D tier, we have skybasing. Possibly the most annoying tactic in the entire game. Just nerd pull up into the sky and sit there. Forever. Once up, there aren't that many options. In order to win, your opponent needs to come up so you can knock them off and break their knees. If the opponent is having a hard time coming up, I like to motivate them by taking a fat dump off the side of the tower. Basic clutching skills are also recommended to prevent accidents and falls.
We are not playing Bed Wars.
D tier. Poison. Who doesn't love poison? This kit involves a little-known game mechanic where honey removes the poison effect. Simply exchange green fluids with your opponent and hope they don't know about the honey mechanic. I like to fill the inventory with a lot of other junk as well, making it harder to spot the technique. Your only real problems are 1. Your opponent figures out what's going on, which honestly happens about 50% of the time, and 2. Being a fucking idiot and missing your poison. Yeah, I wonder who would ever do that. Also should probably mention that the poison only does about half of their health, so you still need to kill them after. D tier. For our next kit, just leave your computer on and take a nap.
Staring contest.
Dios mío, ¿qué hago?
I might sound like a bit of a philosopher here, but what even counts as PvP anymore at this point? Make sure you have all day and you are practically guaranteed to win. Like the obsidian trapping kit, the most difficult part is actually starting a game, as 90% of your opponents will immediately leave upon seeing the inventory. As Sun Tzu once wrote, to win 100 victories in 100 battles is not an acme of skill. To subdue the enemy without fighting is the acme of skill. They will now spend the next 10 minutes, or however long it takes them to get bored, smacking you in the face with their fist. Now you're asking, isn't this a very boring way to play the game? And you'd be absolutely right. D tier. Last of D tier, fish. This is very similar to the creeper kit, except now, you won't die like this. Grab yourself a knockback hoe and fill the rest of your inventory with said fish. This works because when you physically touch pufferfish in the game, it gives you poison for a few seconds, slowly reducing your health over time. Now, for a quick demonstration. Throw fish, run, get stuck in water, throw fish, run, chase, throw fish, direct placement, throw fish, troll self, get hit, chase, run, die, get stuck in water, throw fish, run, collect fish, throw fish, get stuck in water, opponent kills himself. You win. Fun, but not always the most effective. D tier. In C tier, the PvP gets a little more interesting and also requires a little more brain cells to use. Now, we are making a living hell for anyone with red color blindness, also known as protanopia. Can you tell which is the odd one out? Well, here's the original. And if you are red color blind, screw you. Nah, just kidding, here it is. All of these arrows are healing, so they deal no damage. But there is one stack of harming arrows, which most people don't notice. You, however, being the goofer you are, know the location of these arrows from the start, and can use them to literally 3-shot your opponent. Beating people who are much better than you requires little to no effort, and also creates maximum confusion, sparking some of the best chat reactions in this entire tier list.
How does this work?
You shoot up with arrow.
But they're healing arrows.
GG.
Hacks. He gave instant health.
LMAO.
Dumb shit.
Want to see a magic trick?
C tier. For this next kit, we are back on the frozen lake. But now, we have weaponized the lake itself. Use your TNT to blow a hole in the ice, and make a drop chute as shown here. In order to utilize this, you must be sneaky, fast, and precise. Lure the enemy in front of the drop chute and give them a little nudge. With some luck and skills, you will have aimed correctly and now have a few golden seconds of opportunity to seal up the hole. Setting mining fatigue will prevent your opponent from digging out and they will slowly drown. Very goofy, but once again, not always the most effective. C tier. Door PvP. You've probably heard of this game mode before, since it seems to be a pretty popular meme in the PvP community, but its biggest downfall is exactly that. Due to its popularity, almost everyone has seen it before, meaning there aren't really any new tricks to it. Just place doors to stop the enemy movement, and hit them over the top of the door. However, I will admit, it is pretty fun.
I'm high tier 1 in door PvP.
GG, it appears I am high tier 0 in door PvP.
C tier. Too well known. Normally, when you see end crystal PvP, it's a bunch of sweaty nerds blowing each other. This is still that. Just remove the armor, weapons, tools, blocks, potions, and pretty much everything else. All you are left with are end crystals, golden apples, and a few totems. Set the map to this giant bedrock field. True or false? In end crystal PvP, you need to keep your feet 1 block covered so you don't take mega damage and mega die. If you answer true, you're wrong, because with no armor on, you still take damage even 1 block below. Instead, keep your feet a grand total of 2 blocks below. Of course, your opponent probably doesn't notice, something which you can easily exploit to your advantage. In other words, become a hall camper and you will find great success. C tier. Welcome to B tier. The tactics get a little more effective, and once again, require a little more brain power to use. First up, glowing arrows, one of the most situational weapons in the entire game. But now, we are creating that situation. Get an invisibility potion, and immediately when the game starts, shoot across the map and mark your opponent with a glowing halo. Now you can see them, but they can't see you. Very complicated, I know. One of two things will now happen. Either A, you get an easy victory, or B, the opponent runs away, the glowing effect wears off, and you are now both frantically smacking the air for the next 5 minutes. B tier. What if you don't want to PvP yourself? Well now, you can have an army of minions do it for you. This mainly works because of a weird glitch, which makes it so the first player to get attacked by dogs is the only one who ever gets attacked by dogs. I don't know why this works. So, pretty simple. In order to avoid getting mauled off the map, just don't get attacked first. This poor fellow made the mistake of immediately attacking me when the game started. whoever hits first is almost always the one who will get the dogs on them. If you do start getting mauled, the only real solution is to try to knock your opponent into the void and hope he dies before you do. B tier. Next up, possibly the most setup you will ever do in PvP. Okay, here goes. This is your inventory. Choose this desert map, get seeds from here, pearl away, go back to D tier and make a skybase. And make sure your opponent does not follow you. Make the farm box TM. And with power, speed, and resolve, mash the shit out of your left and right click. Make bread, and congratulations. You now have food, which means you can regenerate health, while your opponent cannot. Possibly the most big brain tactic on this entire list, but it requires an absurd amount of setup. It doesn't matter how much better your opponent is, just run away and eat. B tier. In the spirit of extreme setup, we are using the DIY loadout, or otherwise known as caveman strat. Dig down. You are now essentially a mole. Find a cave, mine ores, cook said ores, and craft a full loadout. Your opponent will probably have also started mining, considering there is literally nothing else to do. It can get kind of goofy if your opponent starts playing hide and seek, but if you are quick and sneaky, you can sniff them out before they get too advanced. B tier. Finally, we have TNT, or more specifically, using TNT to blow your enemies into lava. Set the map to this thing, and set the number of rounds to 3. During the first game, fight your opponent like you normally would, but your sole objective is to remove their spawn area without them noticing. This will cause them to spawn suspended on this one stone block in the next round, which means you can now shoot them into the lava with a bow. Very often, you won't even have to shoot them, as the enemy will fall on their own, because it seems to be sort of an instinct to just press W when you spawn for whatever reason. I am not immune to this instinct. Very goofy and very fun, but half the time, your opponent will get knocked onto this stupid back wall thing, and that kind of ruins the point.
Gay.
GG.
What the fuck?
B tier. Continuing the theme of weaponizing literally everything in the game, we have fishing rods. Once you start the match, the first objective is to build yourself a netherite throne. This serves two purposes. One, to dominate your opponent, and the other is so you can tower up without getting knocked off. I swear, why does every single one of these turn back into skybasing? Anyways, once up here, bridge out into the surrounding area and attempt to hook your opponent with your rod. This can be a little difficult, but with a little bit of practice, isn't too hard to master. Run out onto one of your bridge extensions away from the center island and pull your opponent off the map. I would put this kit in S tier because of how funny it is when it does work, but it almost always doesn't. At least by the intended method. And sometimes can backfire pretty badly. A tier. This kit will probably remind you of a previous one. If it doesn't, get screened for dementia. In case you don't remember, this is the wooden sword kit from F tier, but we've enchanted it, combined it with the hidden arrows kit, and also made it generally better. First off, one of the swords has mending and sharpness, while the rest of them are absolute dog water. A sword that only you know the location of. Better yet, unlike the arrow kit, there is zero visual indication of which one it is, even if you're not colorblind.
Skibbity poo Peter.
Use the XP to repair your sword and watch as your enemies break all of the trash you have filled their inventory with. Even if you know there is a hidden sword somewhere in this mess, you still have to check every single one to find out. Good chat reactions as well.
Goated kit.
A tier. On a different twist, we are using Fool's Gold. Get gold armor with these two enchantments on it, and set it to 1 durability. Curse of Binding will prevent you from taking it off, and Mending means you can repair it. Well, you won't be repairing your own armor, but rather your opponent's. You see, if you break your own armor, and then lob these things at your enemy, the Mending will repair their armor, which means they are now stuck in this trash, while you can use a cactus on a map to break your own gold armor and put on something just a little bit better. Some people figure out what is going on and try to use the stalagmites on the map to break it. But this just doesn't work, and you now have the perfect opportunity to XP them from above without much risk of retaliation. Peak trolling.
GG, I lost immediately.
A tier. Gambling. No, not like this. Grab yourself a hoe, some gold, and... The objective is fairly simple, to get an apple from one of the trees around the map. Around half the time, one will drop on the first attempt, but then again, you can also mine every single tree on the map and not get a single one. It's all part of the thrill of the gamble, the absolute adrenaline rush of mining leaves. The true potential that could be realized if you're just a little lucky. Or the despair that might come to fruition should you be unlucky. Every single one of these does truly turn back into skybasing, doesn't it?
No gaps, okay?
Look at this tree for a sec. What do you think I did?
A tier. Congrats, you have made it to S tier. Kids in this tier have about an 80 to 99% effectiveness rate. Truly the best of the best. End crystals. Again, quite possibly the most powerful weapons in the game. But they can only be placed on bedrock, which can't be obtained as an item, or obsidian. This seems like a critical weakness that can be exploited. If you give end crystals with nothing to place them on, they are useless. Set the map to this forest and head into one of the two caves, depending on where you spawn, around the map. There you will find lava, and therefore obsidian. While using this kit, I experienced plenty of hallway and pit fights, most of which did not go very well. This is easily fixed by adding an ender pearl, which can then be used to escape the cave as your opponent is coming down after you. The only step left is to find a 1-block ledge, and quickly hotkey to your obsidian and then end crystals. 80% effectiveness rate. S tier. When you look at this inventory, what do you see? This kit is perhaps the hardest to figure out from the entire tier list. I will now give a brief explanation. Spawn the parrots for feathers, but you can't kill your pets on the server, so use the creeper to blow them up. Preferably higher up so the feathers don't fall in the void on this map. All of these shovels have silk touch, which makes them completely useless, except for one, which has fortune 3 and can be used to obtain flint from the map. You will now turn the wood into sticks, make a crafting table, and craft arrows. There are so many steps to this that even if your opponent does figure it out, you will probably have more practice, plus knowing the location of the fortune shovel beforehand, and therefore will get arrows first. At which point, the game is already over. You must put infinity on the bow as well, as this gives you infinite shots and, more importantly, prevents your opponent from picking up any arrows that you might miss. 95% success rate. S tier. Carpet bombing with fireworks. You take fireworks packed full of high explosives and use them against your opponent. However, there is one small issue. That being that fireworks fly up before blowing up. You can stop this by double layering carpet and placing fireworks in the gap. This is incredibly powerful. Use cobwebs to stop your enemy's movements, as shown here, and then carpet bomb them out of existence. I was originally going to put this in A tier, but then this happened. If you don't know, manepear is this guy.
GG.
LMAO.
Truly S tier material. Remember when I said you can use the opponent against themselves? Let me enlighten you to a little tactic I like to call gaslightmaxxing. Get 2 pieces of leather armor and an invisibility potion. One of the armor pieces should have cursive binding, while the other doesn't. Put on a non-cursed one, and your opponent will see this, leading them to put on the armor also. But you only put on the one without cursive binding, whereas they most likely will wear both pieces. Paired with invis, you can see them, but they can't see you. The game is decided before the timer even finishes. As an added bonus, you can see the exact moment your enemy's soul leaves their body as they realize their critical mistake. Hilarious. S tier. If someone asked you what is the most powerful weapon in Minecraft, you might answer a Sharp 5 netherite sword, maybe a Power 5 bow, The more experienced might say end crystals, and those more technically oriented might even point to supersonic railguns, which can kill a warden in one hit. But all of these pale in comparison to the true, undisputed champion of Minecraft weapons. That being the void. Even totems don't work against it. Grab yourself some TNT and use this map, which has give or take 3 blocks of space between you and the void. Blow up your enemy's spawn, and the rest is pretty much the same as the lava pit. Except, now there is no stupid back ledge here to catch your opponent.
GG.
Fuck you.
95% effectiveness rate. S tier. Well, it appears you have made it to the end of the tier list. Here I have made a web page with all the kits if you want to try them yourself. And here's my Discord server. If you watched all the way to the end, you clearly enjoyed the video, so consider subscribing as it's free and helps out the channel.